Electricity prices in Finland are going through the roof, much like elsewhere in Europe. What's really interesting in Finland is that we're just about to open a new nuclear reactor, which is supposedly going to produce a third of all Finland's electricity. However, I'm not holding my breath because I don't think, like all other countries in Europe and North America, we no longer live in anything that resembles a free market economy. So the energy companies might be privately owned at the moment, but electricity prices aren't being determined by supply and demand. They're not being determined by market forces. We're actually already living in a technocracy. And that technocracy, I think, will be best described by what Mussolini referred to as fascism, which was the union with state and corporate power. So basically what I think is happening now is that you've got, and this will be the same for Britain, same for France, same for everywhere else, you've got an oligopoly, a small number of very large firms who are providing electricity. The smaller firms who aren't part of the cabal, they're being forced out of the market. The big giants, the electricity companies, they're partially responsible for putting puppets into power. You know, I'm talking here about the politicians. So basically what you've got is a situation where big business and their marionettes in politics are screwing over the little guy, and that's me and you. So it's a technocracy in the sense that it's not the market that's determining prices, it's people like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. You know, the politicians will be given price targets, and then the politicians will be straight on the phone to the big six energy companies, maybe in Britain, and they're told what prices to charge. And if they're not compliant, they'll either be forced out of the market if they're a small provider. You know, maybe they get banking services withdrawn, maybe they get their overdraft called in, something like that. Pretty easy for the cabal to put a small firm out of business. So anyway, what I'm going to talk about now is this article that I saw in this newspaper in Finland called Uusi Suomi, so New Finland it is. And it refers to Finland's finance minister, this lady called Annika Saarikko. And she says here, the finance minister, this is Saarikko, describes the economic situation as completely exceptional. She's referring to energy prices here. In quotes, Putin's prices, Putin's war, energy, all of Europe's industry and economy, where I want to say to Finns that we'll get through this, but at the same time we have to admit that we're facing historically exceptional times in these years. She began his press conference, you know, with those comments. She says Saarikko bluntly said that the risk of recession can't be ruled out. No shit, Sherlock. She says anticipation of economic growth is not looking very good now. Not everything is now in Finland's hands alone. Yeah, so don't blame me, plebs, when your prices go up. It's got nothing to do with me. Putin's prices, where have we heard that one? Sounds a lot like Biden, sounds a lot like Boris Johnson, sounds a lot like Liz Truss, sounds a lot like Macron, doesn't it? Sounds like all of them, basically. They're all reading from the same script, or it appears so. It must be a coincidence, because I can't imagine that Annika Saarikko is controlled. I'm sure she's her own woman, and she's not just a script reader for the World Economic Forum. That could never happen. Just look at all of these people who were World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders well before they made it in politics. What are the chances of that happening? Anyway, here's a quick roll call, and then I'll carry on with my analysis after you've had a look at some of these pictures, because I think some people, this is so bizarre that they'll struggle to appreciate the facts until they've actually seen it with their own eyes. Also, what I would recommend is actually doing your own research. The World Economic Forum has its own website. You can actually see who's gone through. Certainly the Young Global Leaders, I think they've deleted a lot of the stuff, the older stuff, like Merkel, for example, was Angela Merkel, she was a former Young Global Leader for Tomorrow, again well before she made it in German politics. So she goes, the finance minister stresses that there's now one consequence of the war, an exceptionally large and rapid rise in prices. So my question is, like, do people swallow this bullshit? That's going to be really interesting to see. You know, is she going to be able to convince people of what she said? I'm choosing my words quite carefully here. Be interesting. I don't think so. I think people will see through it. They'll also look, you know, it's a bit like those phrases from before, isn't it? You know, great reset, build back better. They all say the same thing, and I think people are kind of wising up to that. And you know, the fact that they don't even use variations of words, they use the same phrases. Very odd. Must just be a coincidence. It can't be coordinated, can it? So to say, it's not just Finland, it's all over the place. You know, here we've got various people. There's Annika Saarikko, we've got Sanna Marin. They were both young global leaders before they rose into positions of power. Who else have we got here? Leo Varadkar, do you remember him, from Ireland? He was a former young global leader before he came Prime Minister of Ireland. Same with Mark Rutte. He was involved with the World Economic Forum before he was successful in politics. Who else have we got? Macron. He was also a young global leader. Yeah, he was also nothing politically until he was a young global leader. Who else have we got? Justin Trudeau in Canada, same story. Young global leader. Then following that, his political success arose. Who else have we got? We've got loads of them. Jacinda Ardern, the former Prime Minister of Austria, he was also a young global leader. Vladimir Putin was a young global leader for Tomorrow. Boris Johnson was also a former young global leader for Tomorrow. Again, this was well before he became Prime Minister of Britain. And then the most infamous one of them all was Vladimir Putin. So he was a former young global leader for Tomorrow before he became the leader of Russia. So, yeah, it's important to consider the timings there, isn't it? Because if these people became young global leaders after they got democratically elected, then this wouldn't be surprising at all. But I think what's really interesting is that the timing was the other way around. You know, that these people were young global leaders first, and then mysteriously there was the meteoric rise and they became leaders of whole nation states and chancellors and stuff like that. Now, you know, for me, I say, like, I'm sure Annika Saarikko has done nothing wrong. I'm sure they've got nothing on her. I'm sure they've got nothing on Sanna Marin. I'm sure they've got nothing on Boris Johnson. I'm sure they've got nothing on Justin Trudeau. You know, none of these people have got interesting pasts, have they? I'm sure they haven't. Not at all. No, they're all completely squeaky clean. But what's interesting for me is it's one hell of a coincidence, isn't it, that these people were all young global leaders first, and then they became leaders of whole countries. That's very, very mysterious. That. I wonder what the odds of that happening are. The answer is exceptionally low. So that's all I'm going to say really about today. I think here in Finland, you know, what probably will happen in the countryside is that people will use their wood burners, so they won't freeze here. You know, but if electricity gets pretty expensive, people will go back to how it was, you know, with their wood saunas, and they'd bring a gold bucket of water in, and, you know, they'd sit in the sauna for a while, sweat it all out, and then soap up, and then chuck the water, which would then be warm, over them, and that was the way of keeping clean back in the 18th and 19th centuries. And yeah, we're going back to that, aren't we? Going back to the future. So anyway, all the best. God bless.